Joining us right now to talk more about all of this is former senior advisor to the Clintons. He is the Harris Poll chairman, Mark Penn. Also with me is chief pollster of the Trafalgar Group, Robert Cahaly. Gentlemen, good to see you this morning. Thanks so much for being here. Get your expectations and your analysis. Robert, kick us off. Your reaction to last night's win.
Well, I think, the celebration that Haley seemed to be having just didn't kind of seem like it didn't make sense, almost like in Iowa when she came in third and acted like she came in second. She was smart to get out there early before it widened, but it's essentially, she's celebrating kicking a field goal on the 20-yard line in the first quarter. That's not the way you beat your toughest opponent. It only gets worse from here.
Mark Penn, go ahead.
When she's in her home state, like I said on Sunday, I really feel like that's not something you come back from. So, I mean, she needs to do some analysis. I expect she'll do a little polling when she got an ad buy for about 10 days or so and maybe make a different decision.
Mark, tell us, do you think Haley has a path to victory here? And what is your reaction to the Trump victory?
Well, I never like to count anyone out until they drop out. That's the kind of way of politics. But Donald Trump had an excellent night. Haley, as I said, if she was within 10, she was probably in good shape. Just over 10, that was questionable. Beyond 15, forget it. She just scored the minimum, I think, to stay in the race. Donald Trump looks like he's got the base of the Republican Party sewn up, and that's going to make it really difficult for her. She's looking to Super Tuesday. That's when there are 6 states with independents in there. But Donald Trump has a thorny political problem. She has the independent suburban women voters who will be the swing voters in the election. Attack her too much and alienate those voters, and he could get a nomination, but he won't get a general election. That's the tricky problem he's got.
So what does he need to do now to pivot to try to get those independents, Mark?
Well, look, I think he's got to welcome them, and not go to the base. Be careful in attacking her. Be gracious in his victory, as he was with Ron DeSantis, as he was with the others. I thought it was an amazingly different Donald Trump last night, who actually shared the stage with former opponents graciously. He's going to have to treat Nikki Haley the same way, hold on to the base of the party, and win. That seems to path, unless she upsets him in some way.
It's incredible to me that Fox News voter analysis finds immigration is the top concern for GOP voters in New Hampshire. 41% said that it's the most important issue. The economy came in second place, Robert. This analysis also found Trump voters prioritize the economy more than Haley voters. 78% of Trump supporters feel that their financial situation is falling behind, compared to 20% of voters for Haley who feel that way. Robert, your thoughts?
Well, that's exactly the kind of base that she's looking at. She has as her establishment more moderate base, and those people, when you look at the two justice systems, there are two economies too, and those people are the ones who have prospered. But the people who are going to swing this election are the ones paying their grocery bills on credit cards, and that is where Trump has the strongest point. But Mark's right. The best way for Trump not to alienate Haley's voters is to focus on Biden and his inequities and move past Haley.
Yeah, it's a great point. The voter analysis also found that nearly half of New Hampshire Democrats say that President Biden is too old to serve another term as president, Mark, and yet he won the write-in contest there. Your reaction?
Well, I think I've been consistent that President Biden is the Democratic nominee. He won even the write-in vote. He's going to kind of cruise into South Carolina. He has no meaningful opposition. He is the nominee. And in terms of immigration, let me say my most recent Harris poll showed unprecedentedly it's the #1 issue in the entire country. I was stunned. Been the economy probably for 20 years. This issue has broken big time in America, and that does benefit Donald Trump.
Yeah, no wonder the White House is scrambling to try to come up with answers. The other day, Joe Biden said, yeah, the border is not secure, and I've believed this for 10 years. How does he get away with saying he's believed this for 10 years when, in fact, he walked into the Oval Office on day one and overturned all Trump's security at the border?
Look, there's no question. I almost fell off my chair when he said that, but
Yeah.
it was recognition that this issue cannot sit there without action. The American public is demanding that.
Yeah, they sure are. Robert Cahaly, Mark Penn, great to get your analysis, gentlemen. Thank you.